Welcome everybody. We'll give a minute just for all the attendees to join. We had over 125 RSVPs for today's webinar, so super exciting. I want to thank some of the other people who helped promote this webinar beyond StarMark, the South Florida Interactive Marketing Association, South Florida chapter, the AMA, and BizHack, who also were participants in promoting this to get us that high RSVP count there. My name is Brett from StarMark. I believe I put together a phenomenal panel today. I'm super excited to have these great panelists here. I tried, StarMark is an agency, but I tried to make a very well-rounded panel. So I have representation from an agency, from a brand, a hardware company, a platform, right? So I think we're gonna have a very well-rounded discussion today. The topic is more focused on marketing, because the metaverse is a very kind of messy topic, so to speak. So there's a lot of things that are happening, a lot of conversations, and we just wanted to try to keep it focused a little bit. So of course we will allow questions from anyone on any topic. There's a questions panel right here in Zoom that you can use and enter your questions in here. And we'll try to get to as many as we can. I'm going to try to not focus on things like cryptocurrency or NFTs, though. We want to try to keep it on marketing. I am also going to do a quick poll here. So let me launch a poll for all of you who have joined so far. We'll give you about a minute here to kind of answer this. And this is just to help us and all as panelists to understand, where everybody is in the usage of VR headsets and exposure to the metaverse and whatnot. So we'll give this a few seconds here. All right, let's share the results here. So you should be able to see the results. 57% own a headset, so over half of you. 26% have used one but don't own one, and 17% have never. So good information for us as we're talking today.
So 80% have had a taste of VR. I like that.
Yeah, exactly. Perfect. All right, and so now before we dive into the full program, everybody, we are going to do a quick introduction for everybody. We'll let everybody kind of introduce themselves. I promise this is the only, there's one slide per person. I promise this won't take too long, but we do need to set the stage for everybody and just give a little bit of background and whatnot. So Jay, if you can start us off.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, StarMark, and all the participating partners and panelists. Very excited to be invited. I am Jay Miola. I am the managing director of the Cuttlefish, which is a collective of technologists. We specialize in location-based immersive experiences. So something that you can kind of see on this slide that we built, our most recent project is called Citrovia, which is the blend of both physical, scenic, lighting, along with interactive forms. So there's an AR component to this that extends this sort of psychedelic lemon garden into the virtual world, as well as some ways to engage with some technology that's on site as well. That's actually a very good example of what it is that we do as a business. Briefly, my history is I kind of came up at a time in the 90s when the internet was just becoming a thing, and I went immediately into the digital world, focusing more on design and UX design. Found my way into software development, and I've been developing sort of experiences, virtual ones, specifically VR, AR, mixed reality experiences for the better part of the last decade in a variety of different ways. So that's a little bit about me.
All right. Thank you, Jay. We're happy to have you.
Thanks.
Joanna.
Hi, everyone. My name is Joanna Popper. I'm the global head of VR go-to-market at HP. I've been at HP about 4.5 years. Prior to that, I led media and marketing at Singularity University, and I led marketing at Telemundo. So I know Brett back from my Miami days. So yeah. I lived in Miami from 2000 to 2015. I've been in California ever since, but love Miami and Florida, and yeah, it was a great time being there as well. So nice to be connected back in with my Miami roots there. So at HP, most people have heard of HP, of course. We've been around. For over 80 years. We're the original Silicon Valley company with two founders creating technology in the garage for Walt Disney. So for the movie Fantasia, that's the origin story of HP, and it's actually synonymous with the origin story of Silicon Valley. It's known as like the first Silicon Valley company. So if you're ever out in the Northern California area, that garage is still there. It's a historical site, and so it's really exciting to be part of HP's efforts. We've been part of all of the waves of computing and leading out on that. And so for us, we see that VR, AR, Metaverse, AI, data science, 3D printing is all where the future of computing is going. And so for us, it's really important to be continuing to lead in this area and building, inventing and reinventing the future. And so for us, we have a number of great products. We have headsets like the HP Reverb G2, which is a fan favorite among gamers and businesses. It's made in collaboration with Valve and Microsoft. And it just has really high resolution and great audio. So for those who are looking for, it's PC VR, so you have to connect it to your computer. But for those who are looking for a bit of a better experience, higher end experience at a reasonable price, we recommend that headset. Then we have another headset called the HP Reverb G2 Omnicept Edition, which takes all the greatness of the Reverb G2 and adds to it eye tracking, pupillometry, heart rate sensors, and face tracking, a face camera. And so you are able to have information go two ways. So there's a software package there called Cognitive Load that's available. And so not only can you use the headset to give somebody an experience, you can also understand how they're feeling, thinking, reacting to the experience you're giving them. So that's being used a lot in training and learning and development and marketing, like all the sort of heat map and that type of work that we do. And, where does somebody look? How do they feel when they look at your marketing? How when they walk into the store, where are their eyes going? You can do that with the Omnicept. If anyone wants to chat on that, I'd be happy to chat with you on that. And then we have a new software product called Extend XR, which works in collaboration with all-in-one headsets that helps people scale out large VR installations across industries. And that actually works in partnership with Pico and HTC. And then I'm an EP on a variety of different VR content, like Brianna's Garden, which was been shown at many film festivals and won a lot of awards. It's done in collab with Lady Phoenix and Suit in collaboration with Breonna Taylor's family to honor her life, among some other projects. So that is, but I'm excited to be here and answer questions and talk Metaverse.
Awesome. We're excited to have you too. So thank you so much. I know you're super busy, so we're honored to have you back in South Florida.
Yes, we're. Yeah, I wish I was in the 305 today. That would be fun. Or I guess you're probably 954 grad.
Yeah, 954.
But yeah, I'm still 305. Still am. Just like Pitbull. Never leave it.
All right,
we can be Mr. or Mrs. Worldwide, but you're still 305 at heart.
All right. Hi, my name is Chris Madsen, and I am the North American business rep for Engage XR, which is a social XR platform designed for professionals. A little bit about my history. I have 20 years of behavioral science under my belt, and I was an early adopter of the modern consumer age of VR with the Oculus Quest development kit #1. The first social experience I had, I pulled the headset off. That was back in 2013. Told my wife I was changing careers, much to her shock and horror. And I dove in head first, very heavily into the VR community. Took a position to get my feet wet with Road to VR, which is one of the leading blogs about virtual reality. I was a social VR liaison there, and I was really grateful to that experience because it opened so many doors and exposed me to a lot of things that were in development behind closed doors. I then went on to be the AR VR director for More 3D, specializing in virtual avatars, and in particular looking at technology to make those avatars portable and maintain our identity wherever we traveled with those avatars. We were quite early. That's back 5 years ago now. So we were playing in that arena quite some time ago. And now I'm back with what I consider family, the Engage XR community. I knew our CEO, COO way back in 2013 when we were playing around in social VR. And here we are today with a platform that serves, really four primary pillars. There's the corporate use cases, which go far beyond just having office experiences or boardroom experiences. We're talking employee onboarding. We're talking, being able to have social networking events, even playing games. And we can talk a little bit more about that later. And then we've got the events, which of course took a huge turn with COVID. And that's one of our bread and butter use cases right now, is doing all kinds of events on the platform. Then we got education, which is also really blowing up right now, working with some great partners there, where we're doing live teaching and instruction anywhere you desire on this platform. And then lastly, it's marketing use cases. It's being able to do product showcases. And also training is a big part as well, being able to do training on the platform. So that's a little bit about me. And I think you see in my write-up there, really what it comes down to is this ability to share experiences. I'm all about this new experiential age that we're moving into, because experience is what bonds people. And this is where it's going to be important for the marketing aspect that we're going to dive into. So anyway, thank you.
Awesome, Chris. And so, yeah, super excited to have you. And I think saying business platform is exactly why we're happy to have you here too. And then myself, for those of you who are not familiar, I'm Brett Searcy. I'm the Chief Digital Officer at StarMark. StarMark is founded in 1978 on digital marketing. On May 1st, we just celebrated our anniversary, actually. Our general pillars of business are in the travel sector, B2B and technology, education, and healthcare. And we are kind of analytical and take a data science approach to what we do. I currently run the innovation lab, which means I get to kick the tires on all the cool new tech, really. And that's one of the coolest things about my job. Any marketing tech that could be applicable to any of our clients, I get to try it out and see what those applications are. We've been doing 3D work for many years, usually for product renderings and packaging and those kinds of things. Augmented reality, we started, one of our first big projects was with the theme park in Orlando in 2014. When COVID hit, we had been playing with VR, hadn't done any client projects yet, but we kind of decided like, hey, this could help our business and our company, kind of, since we're all remote. And we issued everyone headsets in 2020 and had our holiday party in VR and did company meetings in VR, and just that made the whole company, kind of come back together, reconnect, have our culture kind of be established. And our innovation lab also has 2 patents. And so just throwing that out there. And I promise that is the end of the promotional slides. Let's get into the Q&A now for our panelists. So I do have a couple of questions set up, and then we'll take those from you as well. So what is the one thing that you think is most exciting about the metaverse for marketers? Who wants to start?
I'll take it. Why not?
All right.
I think what I get most excited about, especially in terms of marketing, is that anytime there's a new medium that's brought to light, that's gaining adoption, is just a new way to connect with your consumer base in ways that they're not most familiar with necessarily, and in ways that you can actually give them some orders of magnitude of some surprise and delight. Being that go-between from brand to user is always a unique thing, and especially when formats like this are just coming up and you have 50,000 daily users, it's really kind of a focused area of people you can look at, understand who they are, and try to do something that's very meaningful for them. And then as a marketer, of course, you're always looking to understand what the lift, what the implications, what the KPIs coming out of that activation are. So therefore, it gives you an opportunity to really be very concise with who you're trying to target, who you're trying to talk to, what ways was it successful, what ways was it not. And selfishly on the marketing side of things, if you make a big mistake, there was only 50,000 maybe people there to see it. So, adoption can be a scary thing, but it's also an exciting element of getting involved in a metaverse, which is not a new idea, but one that's just now starting to reach the masses in ways that are accessible to them.
Jump in. So for me, there's three things that I would highlight that are exciting for marketers in the metaverse. So one is that in general, I think the ethos of the metaverse and where we're heading is very creator and artist driven, creator, artist, developer driven. And so that is exciting to me, to bring that level of creativity in, at a forefront. And so I think marketers and brands can take that opportunity to be connected with, working with artists and creators and developers that can authentically resonate with their brand and work with their brand, but that kind of the star is still the artist, and that I think is a pretty exciting way to market. That's one. Two, it's a very community oriented and community driven. Hey Dan, Dan, I saw your jumping in. I saw your name in there, and I was going to write you. So thanks for saying hi. Dan is a good friend from years and years and years ago. Love Dan. Hope everyone knows him and all the great work he does. But thanks for jumping in. Two, it's very community oriented, and so and that's something as a brand that you aspire to, like actually creating an authentic community around your work. And so that's the second exciting part. And then the third part is the level of immersion that different aspects of the metaverse provide. Like, VR is a great example. So VR, when you're in VR, you have a higher level of immersion. You experience something that's called presence. You have the ability, which is like you really feel that you're there. You have the ability to be interactive and to connect with others. And so that provides a ton of interesting opportunities for brands, right? So you can experience in 3D products and experiences that don't exist in the sort of IRL real world yet. So you can showcase products, have people experience products. You can have them experience experiences they may not be able to access yet in the real world, either because that product doesn't exist or because it's an experience and they're not in the experience yet. But you can showcase what that would be like. So that's an interesting marketing tool. And then it's also we don't yet. It's one of those few moments in the world where you're actually, quote unquote, like captive inside an experience where you're not being bombarded with 17 other messages. So when you're in there, you're uniquely focused inside a headset. And then lastly, along on that, I would say, the ability, just that ability to have that well, I'll go back to, I was talking about earlier how I worked at NBCU and Telemundo. I was there during that period of time where we had the dramatic digital disruption. And so, we started, the way that we marketed, the way that we distribute our content, the way that our viewers and users interaction with our content completely shifted. And just as one little example, we started doing search engine marketing like that. That was new during the time I was there. And we started doing it with just text, and it was effective. And then they offered us the opportunity to do it with images, with flat images. And so we did that, and that we saw that was more effective. And then we were offered the opportunity to add video to our messages, and that was even more effective. And so now we're talking about something that takes it way beyond text or image or video and takes it to a 3D experience that you're fully immersed in. We know from lots of studies that retention is much, much higher when you experience something in VR than when you watch a video or read a book or listen to a presentation. Like, y'all are going to remember 10% of what we say here. So make sure that you pick the 10% that's the most important to you for your memory. But so just in terms of that sort of effectiveness of having audiences retain the messaging, VR is much more effective.
I love the retention comment. Had not really thought of that in the past, but I think it's an excellent point.
I'll answer this as well. So, as we know, the emotional charge one gets when experiencing a product or a service is extremely valuable because it locks into the memory and it ties a person to that experience. And that's really what Joanna was saying is you do get a heightened experience inside of VR. You're feeling those emotions when something's put together right. It's extremely powerful. I mean, even just look at this image behind me here. This is something we whipped together in 30 minutes. This is actually a fully animated experience. And just by being present in that location, you're feeling a heightened sense of awareness. You're feeling those emotions involved. And if you combine a product or a service with that, you're just knocking it out of the park. This is why people go to Disneyland and not just watch it on TV. They go to experience those rides and feel that. Or this is why people pay a bazillion dollars to a Super Bowl game to see things there, is because you're already in a heightened state. Whether you're at the stadium or watching that on TV, you're in a heightened state of awareness. And those are more powerful and much more valuable. These are the same things. You can create a Super Bowl. You can create a Disneyland experience inside of VR. And even if it's a solo experience, it's powerful. But like Joanna was saying, when you combine the social element around that as well, it ups it to the next level. So now you can have your representatives there in that experience that they're having, talking about it and creating that additional level of hype and connection. Because like I said earlier, experience is the glue that bonds. This is how we form relationships, is through shared experience. This is what VR uniquely offers that other mediums don't. I always love seeing people's reaction when they come in and join me in a VR session. The first thing I do is reach out my hand and physically shake their hand and feel that haptic feedback. You feel that handshake. You can't do that on a video call. Right away, they're saying this is uniquely different. So the possibilities are unlimited. And the fact that we've got an unlimited canvas to create on, the possibilities are just mind-blowing of what's possible. And we see this every day. I'm lucky I get to see this every day at work.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. So 3 different perspectives, lots to be excited about. I think this is why everyone is talking about the metaverse right now. So a little more tough of a question though, is it ready for prime time? And if it is, where? And if it is not, when will it be? Chris, why don't you start on that one?
Yeah, a real quick question. Are you guys hearing me okay? I see.
I do. I hear you fine, but I see that
I hear you fine.
One of the Dale's saying that your mic is going in and out.
Okay, okay. Good to know that you guys are all hearing me fine. You want to repeat the
And
question?
not Dale.
Sorry, Brent.
Maybe if some other of the attendees could say if they're hearing you properly, or if it's just so we can.
Yeah. Yeah, sure. So is it ready for prime time? And if so, for who? And if it's not, when will it be?
Okay, everything is showable now. Like we've kind of moved past it. We're always in experimentation phase because we got infinite years in front of us where this is just going to be perfected and perfected. But I would say we're in prime time now because, you know, one, there's millions of headsets already sent out there. A lot of what we do, even though it's not optimal for the real emotional charge, but you know, these experiences can happen on cell phones and laptops and across multiple devices. So you don't have to leave anybody else out. Platforms that are a little bit ahead of the game are supporting all of those devices, and you can still interact with people on those other devices. So just like the internet was back in the day, it's like those people that jumped on a little bit early got to reap the rewards of jumping on earlier. And that's kind of where we are now. But we're in a little bit of a different place, and I'll tell you why. Back then, to be able to create a website, you had to go out and hire a specialist to do that. It took a lot of work because it was so new. Because we're in an era now where we have apps for just about everything, and you can use a WordPress to create a website, and we're in a state as a human race where we're just used to working with apps, and we've got all these amazing tools. And I'm really glad to say that a lot of these tools, or the concept of tools, are making their way into the VR space. If you rewound the clock, say 5 or 6 years ago, I would look at making something like this behind me and say, wow, that's in the hands of the wizards and those that have had 10 years of technical school. There's no way a guy like Chris, a behavioral science person, could do something like that. But now you can. Now it's almost like learning an advanced PowerPoint, right? It's like we've got these tools available. I can go over to Sketchfab where there's millions of 3D models available, download what I need, bring it over into a platform like this, pull it out of my tablet and just place that stuff, manipulate it, throw a 360 sphere around it, boom, and you're just building this stuff. And this is, I love showing people this because you just see their eyes light up and they're like, wow, we truly are magicians. And we've got these amazing tools, these magic wands, where we can bring our imagination to life in whatever form we want. So yeah, I'd say we're in the beginnings of going prime time, but I think this is now where people have to pay attention, and they are. Big brands all around the world are all paying attention to this space right now.
Yeah. And I was there trying to build augmented reality in like 2014, 2015, and it was a nightmare.
Yes.
The tools and toolkits and frameworks that are available now make life much easier. So Joanna, what do you think? Ready for prime time or?
So first, I'm gonna start with kind of how I think about the metaverse. So there's 4 building blocks. My friend Aaron Fink wrote a great article on this, and I agree with these foundational building blocks. So there's spatial computing, which VR and AR, but also other types of immersive computing fall in there. And that's like how we'll experience the metaverse. Then there's the gaming engines, which is how the content is being created. Then there's virtual worlds, works as one of them, where it's like where we'll gather, where we'll come together, where we'll socialize, where we'll be experiencing. And then the last is blockchain, which would be NFTs and all the parts that Brett, you said we're not going to talk about at the top, but it's still relevant. And that's the commerce engine of the metaverse. And so each of those is kind of at different levels and different, or each of the technologies at different levels and different readiness for prime time, I would say. But I think I agree very much with Chris's point that it's really important to already be in there and be experimenting and connecting with audiences and learning from audiences and understand what works for your brand and be working with either having people internally getting to experiment and build and learn and having that skill set either internally or working with the right agencies that can help you get up to speed rapidly. It's not a plug for the agencies, although it sounds like one because I don't work at an agency, and this is a very agency-driven panel, but I think those are 2 different ways to approach it. So I do think it's important for your organization and your brand to be experimenting, but also be clear on what you want to test and learn and what your objectives are. But I think that sort of sitting this out and waiting is probably a mistake for a brand to not even be paying attention, watching, or doing some small experiments at this point.
Mm-hmm.
In some, in at least some of the foundational building blocks of metaverse.
No, I love the idea of experiments. That's what our innovation lab is for. Let's just do something small. Let's test it and see what we learn. And did it have value? And do we continue down that road or do we not? Right? Do we pivot, try something else? But excellent. Jay, do you have a thought on that, or?
Yeah, I mean, I was just going to say that I think largely I'm going to repurpose what's been said already, but it does come down to who are those audiences that are currently on there, and does that match whom you're trying to talk to as a marketer, and how those experiences would be relevant that you're attempting to create. The environments, the social connection, the totems that you're able to give to audiences. So I think that this notion of is it ready for prime time? I mean, certainly, as Chris suggested, these places are available. There are multiple of them. They've existed now for the better part of 20 years, if we're being, completely true to the concept of metaverse. The more mature ones are available on your phone, on your headsets, on your desktop machines. There's the Web 3.0 virtual worlds element of it, and then as Joanne is suggesting, you go all the way into, you need the crazy $4,000 gaming PC to see the highest level stuff. But with 50,000 daily users in the metaverse, you as a marketer, you have to sort of weigh, is that really a good place for me to try and connect with audiences for is it the audience that will try to push the KPIs that I need for my marketing campaigns? That remains to be seen. But you do see a lot of successful examples of this. I'll go to Epic Games with their Fortnite, is a metaverse. When people see Travis Scott giving a concert and they're in these small venues, they're able to socialize, they're doing something, together. I consider that to be a metaverse. Even the game in and of itself, with the ability to go absolutely anywhere and interact with people in real time, is a metaverse. So, there are many platforms that are adopted in mass. Those gaming platforms are in the 250 million daily users a day kind of a thing. So there are a lot of people there. When you look at Decentraland, some of these other places, there aren't quite as visited. So it's hard to say whether or not prime time is right now. I mean, certainly when you look at what Facebook has announced with developing a fully fledged metaverse by 2030, they've got the long game going. In that they want to make sure that this thing is like as expansive, as well thought through, and has a roadmap of multiple years. So, I know it's kind of a non-answer, but
all right. But
a lot of successful cases of marketers using Decentraland, to do some interesting things. But I think when you're realistic about the KPIs that you're looking to get out of it, then that's when the real opportunities came. They were looking for a PR lift, and they got it. So in examples that I'm thinking of, it was about test and learn. How do we get our name into the headlines? And things like that absolutely happen all the time. So.
I was just going to add that I think, we're going to be relying on our traditional marketing strategies on with the web, right? Where VR will actually be used as kind of cream on the crop. It's that special experience. So when you got a social going on, for example, where you're showcasing a new product in VR, you're going to be advertising that in your existing network via the web and giving people the instructions of how to join this special experience. And that's where you jump in. So yeah, like Jay was saying, the foot traffic in some of these places is not huge yet. We hope it will get there. But as far as having a special, compelling experience, we're ready to rock and roll.
So you guys made me think of a couple more. So Jay, you mentioned Facebook. Like, should we be concerned about Meta's kind of rebranding and trying to, I don't know, own it, co-opt it? Is that going to give people a bad taste for the metaverse? I mean, I don't think it will, but I just was wondering, like, the layman might think the metaverse is Facebook. Like, what do you think about that?
Well, yeah, they're certainly attempting to own the concept of the metaverse. I think is what they're trying to do. You'll always have your pessimists who don't like the data practices and what have you. I will just say that they've done the most and I'm sorry, Joanna. I think they've done like almost the most in terms of trying to make VR accessible to people with with an all-in-one inside-out headset with 6 DOF. And I mean, it's really, the adoption of VR is largely because they're trying to make a headset that's good enough at a low enough cost to really make it accessible and create the adoption that I think that they're hoping for. So their version of the metaverse, I'm sure, is poised to be as expansive and as elaborate as we might imagine it to be. I also think, though, that there will be many different metaverses out there. So there'll be plenty of competition. I don't think that theirs will find its audience. So I don't think it's anything to be worried about necessarily, but it'll all depend on the way that it evolves and develops. And like Chris said, like, it's easy to put stuff into a metaverse nowadays with things like Sketchfab. Facebook's starting to create tools for marketers that makes it a lot easier. If their version of the metaverse is like a WordPress level of ease to create your experiences and create, the necessary points of connection between your user bases, then, they may end up on top. But, that remains to be seen.
Chris, any concern about?
I mean, yes, there is confusion. I get calls from people. I hear both sides of the fence, right? Pros and cons. And but I will say, I got to give Facebook huge credit for lighting the fuse, man, because as soon as they came out with those announcements, our incoming, inquiries just shot through the roof. We're just struggling to stay on top of that. So, getting the visibility out there, huge, huge, huge. And then, we've got the HPs and the HTCs and the Picos and all these that are really bringing that, shouting out about the professional use cases of the technology and really helping out there and bringing some, where some people might think the Facebook side's a little bit crazy, we're getting some validity from big companies like HP that are saying, hey, yeah, there's some crazy aspects to this, but there's a lot of legitimacy and really professional use cases and important things that we can be doing with this technology. And so that's my take on it.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think, well, thanks, Chris. I mean, I think, yeah, I agree. Facebook has done a fantastic job at creating a product that is for the masses, both in terms of accessibility as well as price point. And so we, as another company in the space, we appreciate that very much because we see that it brings people into the ecosystem and helps grow the ecosystem and makes it more accessible overall. And then when people are ready to upgrade, they come over. So we love that because it's a funnel for all of us. So that's what I would say on that part. In terms of is Facebook the metaverse? Absolutely not. I think it's important to say that the metaverse is the next wave of computing. It's our shift from 2D to 3D. It's a digital disruption at the level of what we've had in the past with the mobile social cloud era. And so all the big tech companies see this, which is why, all the big tech companies had their place they've had in Web 2. And are now looking at, what's my place going to be in Web3? Where is this going? What are we creating, and how do we get there? And how do what is the world we want to see? And so there's companies out there like us, like Epic, like some other big ones out there that are really focused on making sure that the metaverse is not walled garden, is open, is interoperable. And so there's companies that want that to be the future, and then there's other companies that are more focused on creating walled gardens, where they want to own the ecosystem end to end, and so I think that's like an important distinction.
Yeah,
about kind of what the future might look like.
I want to point out that the metaverse is not even just a virtual reality platform. The metaverse is literally all around us. It's in our physical space just as much as it's in a digital space that isn't necessarily tied in with our physical space. You've got things like the Roblox, right? That's not in VR yet. That's not fully immersive, but it's a navigable 3D space using a 2D screen. If I throw on some an AR device, I can have something appear in my living room. This is using space. This is spatial technology. That is, my room is part of the metaverse because I'm able to project something from that networked system into my home space. Some point soon, you'll be able to put on a headset and join me and sit on my living room with me. We'll have to make a decision of, are you coming to my living room or am I coming to yours? Because you're having that space scanned in real time by your headset, and you can do these meetings anywhere. And then you've got the fully virtual spaces that you can visit that are unlimited in scope, and they can be as large as they need to be. So what it all comes down to is 3D interaction with environments and with each other in all kinds of different spaces that can be physical or not, that they're all connected.
So it sounds like,
I personally wouldn't call each one a metaverse. I prefer the metaverse more like the internet. So the metaverse is like the internet, and Minecraft, Roblox, Fortnite, Engage, VRChat, all space. So those are virtual worlds.
Meta worlds, if you call it something, right?
Yeah. And Tony Parisi did a great piece on, there is no like the metaverse there is one metaverse. He has like these 7 rules that I think is a great piece and a great grounding as well. But I know that there's lots of people are still using the word like metaverse to describe each experience. I personally would not do that.
Yeah,
that's not how I think about it.
It's a great clarification. And it sounds like with Facebook, definitely fueling growth, rising tide lifts all boats, creating great exposure. So it sounds like it's going to be good for everyone. And then, Joanna, you mentioned the interoperability. I know there's no open standard yet to connect these meta worlds so that, you can have identity management or or Chris, you had mentioned earlier about singular avatars that can travel from world to world. Like, do we hope that there is some sort of open source consortium that creates a standard that we can all use to make an interoperable meta world, so that we all have one metaverse that we can all kind of, so to speak, be equal on, like the internet originally did, allowed the big players and little players to link back and forth if they wanted?
It's going to be, when it comes to avatars and identity, it's a really, really big challenge to get an open, agreed upon way of doing that, right? I think what we would see more so initially is that your identity, your background, your reputation maybe follows you from platform to platform. And this is one of the challenges we were trying to solve was, and we're doing a pretty good job at it, is when I worked for the avatar company, is you have your avatar, and let's say you go to Minecraft, for example, your current avatar might not look anything like the aesthetic over on the Minecraft side of things. So how does that avatar now take on that aesthetic in a Minecraft world, but still maintain certain elements, like maybe it's the scar on the forehead or something to do with the hairstyle, that you still can maintain some sort of identity even when your avatar shifts into that aesthetic? That's some high level stuff that still needs to be solved. But as far as having information about yourself that travels from place to place might be a little bit more reachable in the near term.
And we hope that we will have an open interoperable metaverse at some point in the future. I guess it's like, this is more of a where do we think it's going, or where do we hope it goes question.
So we're already seeing a little bit of that. I know there's experiments happening all over the place right now to make this possible, but I can give you one quick example. In Engage, one of the things we did is we have the Ready Player Golf Room. We've been meeting there every month, and we have portals in that room in Engage, that when you walk through that portal with a Quest 2 headset, you will actually be teleported onto the first tee box of a completely separate application called Golf Plus, have your round of golf, and then you can come back into Engage and continue to socialize and hang out. So that's
you're
kind of a first little
platforms.
taste of being able, without taking the headset off, to start to make these jumps. And there's other experiments happening all over the place right now doing the same sort of thing.
Very cool. All right. We don't have a huge amount of time left. I could do this all day, but let me give a couple more questions. So I think you had also, I'm not sure who mentioned, but like kind of compared it to the beginning of the internet. Actually, I think maybe it was you, Joanna, but like when the internet started, people registered domain names. And then when email marketing started, people built their email lists. And then when social media started, they tried to get more followers. Like, you know, again, this is metaverse for marketers. What can marketers do now at the early stages of this Wild West to stake out or whatever they need to do, you know, their place in the metaverse, just to prepare? Maybe they're going to start it next year or put it in the year after's budget, but is there something they can do now to kind of prepare and get ready for it? What would you recommend a marketer to do?
What would I recommend a marketer to do to prepare for this?
Yeah, to prepare for the metaverse.
Create 3D assets. So whether that's your products, it depends on what kind of business you are, but generally I would say create 3D assets. So if you have products that you sell, then I would create 3D assets of those. If you create experiences, you could potentially create a virtual experience, or like a digital twin of some of what you're doing. You can experiment in sides that are internal, like product development and design review, that can potentially help your own company, as well as external facing, you know, that's in a B2B or B2C way as well. But that's one thing I would start doing. But even before that, actually, so going back, step one, I would say experience what's out there. So go into virtual worlds, see VR experiences, download AR experiences on your phone or in the headset. You know, where if you live somewhere that they have festivals, like go to the festivals, see what content is being created. If you are into, or you know, like open about crypto and NFTs, like start going into those worlds, listening to the Twitter spaces, going on Discords, hearing what people are saying. Maybe, you know, mint something or buy something, you know, certainly start small, just to get some experience, but like learn about those worlds. Go to a conference or two, or attend some virtual things. But the most important thing is, I think, like, be in the experiences and see what is being done, and see what other companies are doing, see what creators and artists are doing. Start like following interesting creators and artists and devs who are doing groundbreaking work. Start by immersing yourself and learning. Then start making 3D assets, or simultaneously, but definitely start making 3D assets, and then start putting together a strategy for your company after you've really experienced what's out there. So the first part, though, for me is learn, and immerse.
Mm-hmm. Experiencing is believing.
I would
Yeah,
say definitely follow Joanna's and my Twitter accounts that you posted earlier, because we're always like kind of showcasing what's
You're
going on out
followers?
there.
Embarrassing.
And also LinkedIn as well. There's so many great people to follow, and you follow the right kind of people, you're just going to get a fire hose of information about the metaverse and what's happening out there. But Joanna's right, 3D models. There's a lot of different tools that are used inside of virtual environments, from 360 videos to chroma key, using green screen technology, 360 photospheres, 3D models, learning a little bit about the engines maybe that they're running on, like Unity or Unreal. There's a lot of really great tools. And what again, I'm going to go back to what I said earlier. If you start to get involved with some of these platforms, they already have toolkits available. Like if you come into Engage, you can very easily manage 3D models and bring in PowerPoint presentations and do everything. So it's like we made it easy to manage all of these resources to create what you need to create. So just start to get familiar with some of these platforms and join some experiences, hop into those opportunities.
Yeah, I was just going to add, because the 3D elements are the most important things. If you have unique identifiable 3D elements, that's critical to start building that pipeline and making it part of your daily routine, as a company internally. The only other thing I would suggest, which is, not akin to the early internet, which is sitting, squatting on domains and stuff like that, register with these as part of that process. You're registering your corporate IDs and sitting on those handles in these various spaces to just be able to, in a very basic way, ensure that you own the right names that you would want to be associated with in a variety of these locations. I don't think at this point, buying virtual real estate is so mission critical. I mean, I'd be curious to hear if anybody else on the panel thinks that that's a real must do at this moment. I don't personally believe that that's the case. But in terms of the great rush, I think that those would be two elements that people probably are most thinking about at this point is basically getting those handles, and maybe what does virtual real estate look like in some of these.
Okay, so experiencing is believing, and trying it for yourself, starting to establish some 3D models, and then create a strategy, it sounds like, are things that we could start right now. We have a question from the audience about, is there something the metaverse can do today to either, to solve a problem or to create a solution to something that exists today?
Sure. I'll speak about VR first specifically. So some of the pain points that VR is solving for are around training and learning and development and education. I mentioned earlier how much higher retention is. So that it's solving a pain point for retention. It's solving a pain point in specific industries where what you're training on may be dangerous, far away, expensive, or not exist. So healthcare, first responders, even like manufacturing, helicopter training. Just there's so many, oil and gas. There's so many different things that surgery, perioptic surgery. There's just a ton of examples where VR is solving a very clear pain point around training. Even there was a famous case. There are a couple of famous ones, like training Walmart workers on Black Friday. Like there's such high turnover in Walmart workers, or all retail workers generally. People who work Black Friday this year probably didn't work Black Friday last year. How do you get them trained? there's a lot of different expensive alternatives that you can come up with, but VR training is a economic and efficient and high retention. Yeah.
We like boating training, right? Like a lot of training happens on land. You get them out on the boat and maybe like half the people washed out of, they're like, oh, but you put them in VR headset, you could probably do much less expensive training on land before they have to go out onto the boat and kind of.
That's a great example. It's a great example. Even athletes, the US Olympic team is training in VR, the German national team for soccer is training in VR. So training is a huge pain point that is being addressed. Product development, product design. So architecture, all automotive companies are using VR in their pipeline to increase efficiency, decrease costs in terms of product design review. So that's clear pain point where very, very high penetration of VR that's being used. And then in terms of more consumer facing interaction, I think that it was the concerts were mentioned earlier, live events, creating live theater. I was an executive producer on another project called Finding Pandora X, which was done during like Broadway was shut down and we had actual Broadway actors coming in and acting. All the world's a stage. So we premiered then at the Venice Film Festival, but nobody was at Venice. Everyone from the actors to all the audience was around the world. So bringing people together when we can't be together, whether it's because of COVID situation or it's because it's not or people aren't able to get there. People aren't able to get there because of cost, because of time, because of their life. Being able to still bring people together around the arts, around sports, or around community. So those are three different examples.
What about like even virtual offices, like working, like, is that an example too? Because people are working from home or everyone's remote or like, I mean, is that a real world solution?
I kind of give the example around like product design and product review. So anytime you're like looking at spatial assets or 3D assets and that you're able to go in, walk around together, discuss. So that could be architecture, construction, engineering, or it could be, the automotive that I mentioned, or it could be a sneaker, and so instead of just like looking at the sneaker flat, you're able to look at it in 3D and together so that you can decrease the time needed on design reviews. Mm-hmm. And so for certain things like car, where you have the clay models that are so expensive, you're saving tons and tons of money, or architecture, and but it can be efficient on smaller products as well.
Right. So Chris J, before you answer, we only have a few minutes left. So why don't we do final thoughts and we'll go around. I'll start with you, Chris. Just any final thoughts. You can answer that question or use it for final thoughts for marketers on the metaverse. Go for it.
Okay, I'm gonna do both very quickly. Okay. So just going off what Joanna said, she gave great examples across multiple industries of problems that can be solved. Mm-hmm. I'm going to give you one quick example of this, and the point that I'm trying to make is every day we're getting asked those questions of what if we could do this, what if we could do this to save time, money, bring people together quicker. So I'm going to give you one quick example from one of our partners, River. They specialize in photogrammetry work. What is photogrammetry? That's taking data from real world locations and bringing it into VR, so you're getting an exact duplicate twin of that environment. So for the G7 summit, they were tasked with doing some security work, right, for security training. So rather than having to fly people out to the G7 location at Carbis Bay, they went there themselves, flew a drone up, captured that entire location very quickly with the drone, uploaded that data to Engage, and just a few hours later, now everybody can collaborate and walk the streets of that village, get those line of sights and everything that they need, all within the same day. Can you imagine what that would have cost, and just the logistics of being able to do that in the real world? Pretty phenomenal. I could give hundreds of examples of just really creative, cool ways that people are solving problems. So anyway.
Awesome. We might have to do an encore. And then any final thoughts?
Final thoughts, going back to now's the time to pay attention. This isn't going anywhere. This is only moving forward. You guys, everybody here that's watching this, is a really good opportunity to just start doing your research, start to pay attention, get involved, dip your toe in, because just like the internet from years ago, this is just going to continue to grow. And you guys are in a great position to really take advantage of this.
All right, Jay.
Absolutely. I think everything's more or less been said in terms of your last. So I'll close out with some final thoughts. This is specifically for for marketers and thinking about these sort of collective spatial computing experiences and the metaverse is. But I think like how do you create that essential value proposition to the actual individual, and some things that I've come up with that I think are some food for thought are, how do we talk about the social nature of it? And it's really about how do you create that point of connection between people that they're going to want to spend time with your brand, and not your brand forward, but your brand really being the representation of how these people are being brought together in a new and interesting way that's giving them value. These are these gathering spaces, of course, like, how can these experiences be so unique that it's really, this is the medium it must be experienced in, and to help then drive people back into the experience. And while people are there, how do you then generate these sort of, I keep calling them digital totems, for people to remember that they've been at a certain location in, whatever environment they were. And as a reminder of that, the brand brought you this sort of interesting kind of experience, and that totem that you can take around with you. And of course, it then becomes a badge that you've been there too, as elements go in and out of their time frame. So it's
Cool.
it is really those sort of key pieces for me, is like, how do you just let the natural things that are meant to happen in the metaverse and then sort of be responsible for them happening, and to bring the most value to an individual user or set of users.
Awesome. Joanna, final thoughts?
Well, I'm super excited to see everyone here today. This is part of learning about the space and experimenting. I hope that this conversation has inspired you to go out and check out some new virtual worlds, or try some VR experiences, or start building or jump into NFTs. So glad to see you all. Thanks for the invitation. It's fun to be virtually in South Florida today. And yeah, definitely follow Chris for sure, if you want me to. And everyone on the panel. But yeah, we're all putting, like, constantly tweeting out and posting on LinkedIn the latest things that are happening in this area. So I'm happy to stay connected with everyone. And thanks for your time today. And thanks, Brett and StarMark, for putting this together.
Yeah, so I want to thank the panel so much for coming on. It was amazing chat. I think everybody learned a lot. We did keep it focused on marketing, which I think helped. I want to thank all the attendees who were able to participate. Again, I want to thank the people who helped promote this, the other agencies, the AMA, SFEMA, and BizHack for helping to promote this webinar as well. And that will conclude our session. We did record today, so this will be available at some point in the future. Not exactly sure how or when yet, but we did record it. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much.
All righty. Bye-bye.
Cheers.